short-term and long-term. I also want to apply the surplus to jobs, education, to reduce taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and to cut debt, both long and short-term. The goal is the loss of economic strength in the United States is a national security issue, and the loss of economic strength also ends up where we start losing respect from the rest of the world. My goal is to improve Hawaii's credit rating and to reduce the short-term and long-term debt by improving that credit rating and reducing their borrowing costs. Bottom line is a Hawaii balanced budget amendment and to create a Hawaii surplus that's applied to developing these new industries and infrastructures here in Hawaii. Taxes are the next focus of my campaign, and what I support is a broad-based tax cuts. I basically want to rein in spending and create spending cuts, and to create a flat tax, eliminate alternative minimum tax, which is a huge burden to most taxpayers here in Hawaii, eliminate estate inheritance tax, raise the debt tax exemption, create a capital gains tax cut, a dividends tax cut, reduce the marriage penalty for people that are married. It actually, in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, it ends up costing more for taxes, and to cut the top tax rates and the bottom end tax rates. The goal here is to produce a tax cut that runs from the top to the bottom and is fair for all individuals. We also want to increase the tax deductions that are available for college tuition and require a supermajority in Congress and the Senate for raising any taxes. The loss of 100,000 plus teachers is a big issue here in the United States because of all the deficit issues that we have and the budget problems that the states are having across the nation. It's no exception here in Hawaii. I want to not only maintain the number of teachers we have, but expand and support new teachers across from the children to keiki all the way up through the highest level of education. I also support education, creating new PhD level programs for research and development so we get more of the foundation dollars here in Hawaii. I'm also want to look at if there are offsets to other programs that aren't working. I realize there's quite a few programs that have been cut here in Hawaii. My goal would be to bring back as many of these programs as I can by bringing in alternative offsets from other programs. And the overall goal by cutting these taxes is to create jobs, and by cutting state taxes and promoting a federal tax flat rate and also cutting local taxes, I hope to also cut the gas tax here in Hawaii and to look at the corporate tax rate very closely and personal income tax rate here so that we have the best, most supportive environment possible for the business community here in Hawaii. I'm a very strong supporter of free trade, and I'm very pro-free trade. I'm pro-WTO, I'm pro-free trade, pro-CAFTA, pro-NAFTA, pro-GATT, pro-MFN. I support free trade with Chile, Colombia, Singapore, and any other countries that we could be sister countries with in terms of WTO status. Globalization is an opportunity for us and for Hawaii and the whole United States in terms of opportunities opening up and working with other nations in order to accomplish common goals. No U.S. or Hawaii protectionism. And protectionism in the past has always created history shows that people pay a heavy fine for this protectionism. I expect China to uphold the WTO responsibility, free trade with any country except security risks. I'm also in favor of NAFTA with Chile, and China want open trade, and diplomacy would be the way of dealing with them. And with Mexico, it's a balancing act between free trade and stopping the drug trade, especially the Juarez cartel there. And there are others also that are being targeted at this point. I'm very pro-free trade, and the goal here is that there are things that are going on in the world, like China is securing oil and gas and locking up the natural resources around the world to provide support for their businesses. I want to make sure that we have the same type of resources available, and energy independence is extremely important to me in this free trade policy. Hawaii, I want 95% food independent. That means we are going to generate our own crops, we're going to farm ourselves, and by the way, we can export within the United States back to the mainland all these crops. And for that reason, we basically need new R&D, new crops, new farming, and support for all those, and basically making the companies here do the right thing in terms of producing the right products so that the people here in Hawaii get the products that they need on a daily basis, and they don't have to spend the extra cost to bring food in from overseas. Okay, we need the time to create all our own food and to make things safer, better, more organic, to make our people healthier. And I support green energy and alternative energy to support those technologies and to bring that. So that means bringing farm solar energy out into the fields to pump the water around. It means taking water desalination plants and bringing them here to Hawaii so that we don't have so much of a water issue. It means working with utilities and working with individual providers and companies here in Hawaii so that we can produce the crops that we need at the best price for the people in Hawaii. So the goal, again, is a balanced trade budget here in Hawaii. Again, I'm leaning towards trying to create as much of our own production capabilities as we can to be as independent as we can and focus on alternative and green energy to provide that. I would love to be 95% off the oil that we use and we burn in our power plants to protect to actually create energy. And the idea is to cut expenses and protect businesses here and to create those businesses that we need in order to feed the people and population here in Hawaii. Okay, next thing I'd like to discuss is the United States and Hawaii's foreign policy and running for U.S. Senate. It's a larger responsibility to protect not only the people here in Hawaii, but to make sure that as a nation we're doing the right things so that we have the right pieces in place and our relationships are set up so that it makes it easier for the state of Hawaii to bring these businesses here. For that reason, I'd like to discuss each one individually, and I'll be very brief, but I'm very specific about what recommendations I have in mind. The first thing is North Korea needs to stop the missile firing that they have here. They've been firing out in the direction of the Hawaiian Islands. Even though we do have significant protections in place, I would strongly recommend to the government, to every legislator that I deal with, that this needs to stop. And the reason why it needs to stop is because people of Hawaii should not have to live in fear of this happening. And they did have a missile that failed. I am more interested in protecting the people in the state of Hawaii. As far as Afghanistan and Pakistan are involved, what I'm interested in doing is having us bring our troops back with victory. And the idea is to win the war and to declare a win on these wars and to bring our people back, because any one of these, the war in Afghanistan has been going on since the early 60s and 70s in terms of the wars that they've had ongoing. And there are hundreds of wars that are ongoing within the world. But on a daily basis, what I want to do is protect those troops and those families that are from Hawaii and that are out there at these things. Some of them are on 3, 4, 5 deployments there. And I strongly support the military, and I want to make sure that they have the best means and resources. But at the same time, we're already in Iraq, we're $1 trillion plus in. Afghanistan, we're right on the verge of adding significant money to the budget for that. We have, matter of fact, today the budget was approving more monies for Afghanistan. The insurgents have moved into Pakistan, basically over the border, and now we have the capability to go in there. But the goal here, again, is to raise the foreign relations view of the United States as a peaceful nation that's more of a peacekeeping force rather than a nation-building force in each of these countries. As far as Iran is concerned, and I am a strong proponent of non-nuclear proliferation, and the way to do that is basically like the United States has been doing with relationships with Russia and with China and all the BRIC countries. Basically everyone that Iran sells their oil to, the idea is to basically work with them to strengthen our resolve to ensure that they become a non-nuclear power. But they may have nuclear power. I mean, a strong proponent of nuclear power. It's a great way for green energy. So for any developing nation, it's a wonderful way to go. So if they can just stick to the nuclear power world, it would be a heck of a lot easier. Russia is going to be a key partner in this, again, because of their extensive relationships with Iran. Now, speaking of Russia, it's a two-sided coin. We have also, Russia has been fairly aggressive in the last few years with Georgia and now into the Ukraine. What I seriously want to make sure is that the partnering and the respect level stays significant. And so that what I would like and recommend is that Ukraine and Georgia be brought into NATO. As far as the Middle East, Israel, support, I'm a strong supporter of Israel. I'm a strong supporter of all the Middle Eastern nations surrounding Israel also. What I would love to be able to do is to have suddenly a breakthrough, and the breakthrough would be that the families, the mothers, the daughters, the grandmothers get together and they say, hey, this is enough of us killing each other's kids. Maybe we can resolve this and straighten this out. I mean, land is fungible, but lives are something that's very precious, and I want to protect as many people as I can, both here and overseas. And so U.S. policy needs to dictate this. And as far as first strike of Israel attacking Iran's nuclear complex, because they built everything so far underground over in Iran, I believe that the best approach would be to negotiate and to work this out with those players so that, you know, the large number of facilities that they bought and brought over to that country are brought into compliance with the worldwide standards for nuclear proliferation. What I'd like to do is any leader here from the United States, from a foreign policy point of view, I would like the leadership from the Congress to the Senate to the President should be able to sit down with any leader and with preconditions and basically come up with solutions rather than just focus on what the problems are. And I'm prepared for the dangerous threats of the world. I'm prepared to normalize relations with countries like Vietnam. That should be normalized at this point. And the trade status, I'm also prepared to go forward on trade status approval for Colombia and all South American countries, and to give trade sanctions on countries like Venezuela that are basically acquiring and taking oil rigs from oil companies and saying and nationalizing them. I believe that they should return those oil rigs to those companies, and they need to go into compliance with what the acceptable behavior within the international community is. And my overall goal is to alleviate starvation around the world, to alleviate and to teach farming and to teach the people around the world how to take care of themselves and to eliminate corruption globally and eliminate worldwide hunger. And the way you do this is basically you review globally and you look at what the allocations are of money and resources by country. And then what you do is you work with the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, and the top ambassadors from all these countries, and you come up with the solution. And the solution is a more balanced approach to sharing resources. The United States is putting out well over $300 billion in resources out to foreign countries right now. We just want to make sure that those resources are used to create the infrastructure so that people can fish for themselves.